Are there words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control.
We think we have it very well under control. We pretty much shut it down. It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle, it will disappear. We can hold that down, as we're saying, to 100,000. It's a horrible number. We all together have done a very good job.
As the nation surpassed 4 million COVID cases and over 145,000 deaths this week.
It's something that we have tremendous control of. I think we're going to win faster than people think, I hope.
You're going to lose a number of people to the flu, but you're going to lose more people by putting a country into a massive recession or depression. The virus is going to disappear. I feel about vaccines like I feel about tests. This is going to go away without a vaccine.
The coronavirus itself, SARS-CoV-2, is here to stay.
As the U.S. surpasses a staggering 400,000 deaths, the incoming CDC director says another 100,000 could die in the next month.
It is what it is.
It's going to fade away. We're in very good shape.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your response to this crisis?
I'd rate it a 10. I think we've done a great job.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Give me a break. Please clap.
That's right. Waldorf Nation. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Tuesday. The day after Labor Day. Hopefully all of you had a nice, restful, relaxing weekend, as well as, of course, honoring the workers that helped bring us Labor Day. And so, look, they'll bring us the weekend. They'll bring us the 40-hour work week. And now labor, of course, needs to get together. Workers need to get together again and push for a 40 work week, more workers' rights, higher wages, benefits, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a good realization that we have a long way to go, that we have went backwards in the fight for labor and representation in the workplace. And so to push forward with those things, and maybe, one of my goals, of course, is to go for more worker co-ops and things like that, to bring us towards a more democratic workplace. That is, of course, in the future. We have a lot of labor issues now that we can push for, including more unionization. So, all right. That said, hopefully you all had a good time and remembered the sacrifices, of course, of our country's labor force. And hopefully you all, by the way, supported the unions, the ones that are on strike, the ones that continue to go. There's an Oreo strike going on, of course, the Nabisco. And so those workers are demanding better pay, wages. In fact, there's a lot of different strikes going on across the country as well that you should support it. And so socialists created Labor Day. This is true. But Harris said thank you, thank unions. Mission accomplished. There you go, mission accomplished. It's over. We now have the communisms. No. All right, anyway. So, boy, do we have a good show today. We have a lot of stuff to go through. We got new stuff from QAnon Shaman. Oh, the Muffin Man. Sorry. I don't want to offend him by calling him the wrong name. We've got Ted Cruz telling people to get a job. Just get a job! I'm going to push back on that, of course. We got a teen that went viral for flipping off anti-maskers. That's fun. We got meltdowns at the airport. We got Marjorie Taylor Greene. She says she doesn't like corporate communism, but yet invests in corporate communism. What are the details on that? That's a yummy story. You're going to enjoy it. It should be fun. Let's do it. Before we dive in, thank you, John's Venn diagram of desire. Long time no see. Subbing it tier 1. Also, welcome back, S. Bloom, our wonderful Twitch moderator. Hopefully you had an excellent vacation and you feel much better, or I should say time off, and that you're feeling much better. And again, thank you for your service, moderators over on our Twitch channel. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. All right. Yeah, let's do it. Oh, like and share the stream too. I think you'll enjoy this story. Be good times for all. Before I do, up that. Mods are saints, indeed. Put up with some crap, that's for sure. QAnon Shaman Jacob Chansley, otherwise known to me as the Muffin Man, he has had some pretty wild defenses when it comes to his actions on January 6th, as of course proposed by his lawyer. Okay, so he's got all these wild defenses that he keeps coming up with. His lawyer goes out and says, I'm pretty sure it's his lawyer's coming up with all this stuff. So now on Friday, I did the story. I talked about how he pleaded guilty to a felony count of obstructing an official proceeding. So now that the charge is done, the plea deal has been done, he looks forward to sentencing. Now that particular charge is punishable by up to maximum 20 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. So now, look, that's a lot of money. It's $250,000. Is Donald Trump going to come help him? Is he going to get Trump money? No. Are you kidding me? No, of course not. Of course not. Which brings me to the wild defense's lawyer, Al Watkins, is using now to try to reduce the potential sentence on Mr. Chansley. Let's go to that here. This comes from a video that Watkins put out saying that, of course, Chansley was so enamored, so fond, possibly even in love with Donald Trump, that it was akin to first love. Don't believe me. Watch the video for yourself.
He had a fondness for Trump that was not unlike the first love a man may have for a girl, or a girl for a man, or a man for a man. The first love always maintains a tender and soft spot in the heart of the lover.
Ah, yes. First love. Never quite forget it. Feelings, the way your heart beats, whenever that person is around, the way that you can stare in their eyes, feel the magic that surrounds them. The way they sound, their voice, it's so magical.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Beautiful. That's beautiful, man. That brings a tear to your eyes, doesn't it? God. No wonder so many have fallen in love with Mr. Trump. Okay, see, this is what I've been saying. It's a cult. It's a cult. And yes, by the way, I do believe that there is some weird parasocial relationship that a lot of these followers have with Donald Trump. And look, it's not actually that far-fetched. It happens all the time. We see it with celebrity sports figures, elected officials, podcasters, and YouTubers. And of course, again, Donald Trump was on The Apprentice and then went into politics. And, well, there's that weird parasocial relationship right there where people actually think, oh, no, he's talking to me. Donald Trump, he means me. He hearts me. He hearts me completely and totally. Well, I heart him too. That's not at all out of the norm. Now, of course, Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. But we know that. And so the thing is that he is using this, his lawyer, as an excuse to justify why his client literally dressed up in an animal costume, but not in like the cute furry way, but like the crazy, insane, I'm going to take over the Capitol way. And that's exactly what happened. And so I get why he's saying that, because the main defense is, look, Muffin Man's got some major issues upstairs, okay? Go easy on him. Go easy on him. It's just, you know, he ain't there. He ain't there. And he possibly may be in love with Donald Trump. Okay, all right, that's interesting. Now look, the thing that sucks about it is that this might actually work. Simply for the fact that Chansley is both white and male. And of course, you throw in right-wingers, and then you've got a whole bunch more privilege in there. And so this could, again, if he were black, guaranteed, hands down, maximum sentence, no thought required. All right, that's it. Throw him in jail. Throw the book at him. Throw away the key. Lock him up. That's it. That's it. We're done with him. We're done with him. But since he is white and male and right wing, the judge, who by the way was pretty harsh on him before, was like, hey, maybe he might think we should give him a lighter sentence because he's obviously disturbed. It's like holding up that sign, terrorist, not terrorist, and it's a color chart. The old Family Guy meme. And so that's what Watkins is playing at for his client. And I get it. It's a sound legal defense. Sure, it makes sense. So now CNN's Jim Acosta talked about this. So he played this video for his guests, and he had on Paul Begala and former Representative Barbara Comstock. Barbara Comstock she's a Republican from Wyoming, and she said some fairly interesting things that I would like you to hear, and then I'm going to respond. Take a look.
Congresswoman, I never thought this would come back to love. We can't blame all of this on love, can we? You've worked very hard on this issue, I know, so I wanted to ask you about that first. What did you make of that?
I'd say, what's love got to do? What's love got to do with it? I mean, this was an insurrection. Now, these people who bought into Donald Trump's big lie, obviously they are the ones suffering. And I believe there was also discussion of people were encouraging him, hey, you might get a pardon from somebody who is never going to be president again, which would be Donald Trump. So this is sad that people who believed in Donald Trump are now, going to pay very personal costs, as they should. These were criminal actions on January 6th. I don't think we've still gotten to the bottom of it, because I think a lot of the people who need to be held responsible, people at the White House who may very well, as information comes out, have been involved in this rally and egging on this kind of activity. And that's why I think it's so important that we get these phone records, that we get these text records of people there who are engaged in that activity and in the days before and the days following. And I think this is going to be a very important.
Congresswoman? Sorry to interrupt.
Well, I think anybody's. One of the first people I'd focus on are people like Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump, Mark Meadows, people at the White House, people who were conducting the rally. So I think where those lead you.
Okay, so a lot of interesting stuff there. We're going to break it down. But first, what's love got to do with... Okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, I promise. I'm not going to sing. I had to. It was what she said at the beginning. Okay, what's love got to do with it? It's an insurrection. Well, hey, true. Again, sorry. Apologies. Had to. So, look, the couple interesting points that I want to talk about with from Barbara Comstock is she rightly points out that there were a lot of Trump officials that were pointing out the big lie, that we're talking about the big lie. They were spreading it about the election, and that's important to go after. Sure, I agree with that portion of it. Wonderful. There's really nothing that she said that I disagreed with. The thing that I find contention with is what she doesn't mention, what she actually doesn't talk about. And so let's not pretend that before Donald Trump, the Republican Party wasn't the insurrection party. It absolutely was. And I know media has a really, really short attention span, but this has been going on for a very long time. Remember, during Obama, constant screams of illegitimate president. Oh, he's a Kenyan Muslim, he wasn't born here. There's an entire birther conspiracy spread by the Republican Party and even Donald Trump back in 2012, before Trump was even considering running for president. And so you had all of that conspiracy theory, and those shouts of illegitimate president, and of course the constant insurrection rhetoric, the Civil War rhetoric, all that stuff. So that was not, by the way, in the fringe of the party. That was a party. It still is a party. It's a rather large part of the Republican base. And the reason is, of course, look, you don't create an alternate reality where people believe in someone like Donald Trump in just 4 years. No, it actually takes the alternative reality to create a voter that is willing to vote for someone like Donald Trump. And that's the issue, right? Not even 8 years of Obama, right, pissing off conservatives by being a black man in the White House could create that alternative reality. No. For decades, the Republican Party has fostered conspiracy theorists, insurrectionists, and racists, and xenophobes, and misogynists. I mean, on, right? And of course, it's with the help of Fox News and of course, conservative talk radio. I mean, it was, I believe it was Charlie Sykes, was a conservative, radio personality. He came out and he said, look, we've created this bubble for decades. We fed into it. We created this alternative reality. And now the Republican Party, the voters are against pretty much all the institutions. Even if the institutions are, I should say, especially if the institutions are there to try to give you factual information. Now, of course, there's a lot of issues with some of our, or I should say a lot of our institutions, especially when it comes to media, and I call them out all the time, because now there is a profit incentive in media. That said, right, and by the way, that incentive didn't used to exist. There used to be actually things called straight news, where you would just go and get straight news. Now, on cable TV, especially Fox News, there's very little delineation between what is opinion and actual straight news. In fact, Fox News has been getting rid of their so-called straight news departments for quite some time and doubling down with opinion hosts, because guess what? That's what the hogs want. And so that's a problem. All right? And so now look, politicians also helped with that bubble. They would dog whistle racism against black people, immigrants. They, fight the culture wars against gay people and claim to be pro-family and question science, mainly on climate change. And so, of course, now that's spilled into medical science or vaccines. And so what you see now is the culmination of that alternative conservative media reality that has been created over the decades, fostered by Fox News, Republican politicians, ones that spread, narratives of voter fraud. Because again, this is not a new narrative. This has been here for quite some time, a very, very long time. They've been talking about voter fraud and, we need to stop the voter fraud. We got so much voter fraud, they're going to steal the elections. All the way back in the early 2012, 2010, all those different elections, 2008, 2016. This is a narrative that Republicans have been harping on for a very, very long time in order to try to pass laws that limit voting for black people, essentially. And so that's the issue, right? And so to ignore all of that, and this is all way before Donald Trump, to ignore that does a huge disservice to the truth. And so now, as a Republican politician, I'm fairly sure Barbara Comstock knows that that's the problem. The base is the problem. I mean, the entire culture right now of the Republican voter at this point is so steeped in their own little, bubble, alternative reality. filled with toxic conspiracy theories and of course, nationalism and hate disguised as patriotism. And there's some issues, some pretty big issues with that. And how do you, as a Republican politician, manage to place that blame on the conservative media, talk radio, Fox News, that also simultaneously props you up? How do you do all that and expect to still be a Republican and get Republican voters? You're never going to win an election again. And so that's the fine line that, by the way, they have created and now are forced to walk. And that's the problem. And why Comstock can't argue beyond holding Trump and his cohorts responsible for everything and not touching the toxic atmosphere they've created among their own voters, getting their voters, misleading them into believing basically anything, because you have to believe in basically anything in order to believe that tax cuts for the rich help you as a worker. So, but really, Trump, getting back to him, is really just a symptom of the rot inside the base itself. And of course, in the system. Without him, they'll find someone else, maybe just as competent, or, well, I should say, maybe just as crazy, but maybe more competent, maybe somebody that ends up being more dangerous. And that, of course, is the worry. And so, while I agree, of course, with holding everybody in power, Trump and Giuliani and all those, Meadows, all of them accountable and responsible, also, you got to make sure to hold insurrectionists themselves responsible for their own actions, and of course the ones who encourage them. As far as the bigger problem, the bigger picture goes, of trying to get a third of the country back to reality, I just don't know. I don't have the answer to that problem, and I suspect not a lot of people do. Big problem. Very bad. Okay, moving on. That Shaman is getting his muffins worth for that weak defense from Watkins. Well, I mean, what kind? If it was a bran muffin, then yeah. If it was a blueberry muffin, then maybe you would come up with a better defense. Because blueberry muffins are amazing. And awesome. Awesome and amazing. Blueberry. All right, moving on. With unemployment benefits ending on Monday, or have ended on Monday, I should say, for millions of Americans affected by the pandemic, Ted Cruz and the Republican Party, well, they don't really care so much. In fact, here's their suggestion for the millions of people that are going to be affected. Get a job! Oh, really? Well, that's it? Yes. On Twitter, he told the roughly 8.9 million Americans who have lost all or part of those benefits, many of which, of course, have held on to that as a lifeline, to just go get a job. There's jobs everywhere. Quote, there are millions of vacancies, and small business across the nation are desperate for workers. And then linked an article from the Associated Press titled, Jobless Americans Have Few Options as Benefits Expire. So, rebuking that article, of course, an article that he very likely did not read, because it lists some very, very good reasons why people are not snapping up those jobs, why people are still reliant on unemployment benefits. In fact, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to illustrate why telling people to just get a job is absolute bullshit. For one, I think we all know by now the jobs that are out there do not pay enough. There is no where in this country, no state, where a full-time worker on minimum wage can afford rent. That's it. Numerous studies and testimonials from companies that did raise their wages to $15 an hour did show that when you do that, employment increased. People wanted to work for you. Weird how that works out. Yet Ted Cruz and the rest of Republicans and corporate Democrats, like Kirsten Sinema, well, they killed the bill to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Weird. Oh, that's strange. Interesting. Now, had he supported that, good chance that a lot more people would have jobs, and the economy would be on a better track. Oh, but his donors wouldn't make as much in profit, and we can't have that. Those big corporate donors that fund both Republicans and corporate Democrats don't want the American worker to make more money. It's bad for them. They can only afford one yacht instead of three. Maybe they can't afford this year to buy a boat that they can park in their other boat. I mean, well, that would be a tragedy, wouldn't it? Oh, yes, very tragic. Let me bust out the world's smallest violin for those incredibly wealthy people. Yes. No, but his party said we're not gonna raise wages, but we are gonna take away unemployment. And so they gave a pretty dumb reason as to why, and claimed that, well, if you give people unemployment, if you give them extended unemployment, well, they're discouraged from work. They're just not going to work. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work anymore. Well, wrong. Economists Peter McCrory and Daniel Silver of JP Morgan, yes, that JP Morgan, found exactly zero correlation between job growth and state decisions to drop federal unemployment aid. So these states, a lot of states said, no, we're just not going to take that money. We're not going to take the federal money to give to our workers, our working class people. We're going to instead say, screw you, go get a job, you bums. And so they did a Ted Cruz. And what happened? Oh, would you look at that? Pretty much no change in employment. These companies that are seemingly desperate for workers are still desperate for workers. Oh my God, what do we have to do to bring workers in to work for us? Well, you could raise that. I know, let's give them a $200 bonus. Well, actually, a $15. No, what we're going to do is give you free meals that you could take home for lunch. Or you could just raise the wage. We'll call you heroes. God damn it. You're not listening at all. You're not listening at all. Just raise the wages. Raise the wages. But again, they don't want to do that. Okay. Now, an economist at Columbia, Kyle Coombs, only found minimal benefits. Again, proving that killing unemployment benefits, ending them early, didn't do a damn thing to help employment in their states. Yeah. So, ridiculous. Because that's not the problem. It is not unemployment benefits that are keeping the vast majority of these people unemployed. No, you have also other issues, okay? You have childcare, for example. Some schools are still doing at-home learning because of coronavirus. Daycare's not open. And if they are, well, just look at the insane price of putting your kid in daycare. And a lot of people either have no choice or have chosen to stay home because it just ends up making more sense from a financial perspective to stay at home and not work and drop out of the workforce. So, and not only that, but the Labor Department also says that there's still about 5.7 million fewer jobs than before the pandemic. So we actually still have less jobs than we were before, even though we're supposed to be in a recovery, and even though everybody and their mom's got an anecdote about, oh, well, look at all the places that are hiring. Really, tell me what kind of places are hiring. What kind of jobs are they? Oh, is it the place that offers, $18 an hour plus benefits? Are those the places hiring? No, it's McDonald's that offers you $10 an hour. Yeah, of course. And so those are the places that claim to be desperate for workers. Again, all low wage, all fast food, generally restaurant jobs or service jobs of that nature. Walmart. And so now what's interesting is, as a result of the pandemic, there were a lot of people who were in that industry who worked in food service before and have since moved on to other jobs, better paying ones with benefits. And that's a result of older Americans retiring. And of course, there's always that sort of turnover where you have older people that hit the retirement age, or they're at that point where they just don't, they're able to leave the workforce essentially, either because they're, family members or whatever are making more money as a result of some some wage growth in other industries or whatever. They're able to make these choices, and sometimes that choice is made by COVID as well, so that these people are no longer part of the workforce. And so there are people that were working at these food service jobs, maybe going to college, graduated, and were able to go into those other fields that were vacated by older people. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. So now, apparently, these companies, fast food workers, are not desperate enough to raise wages or treat any of their workers with dignity. This so-called labor shortage, it's not the workers' fault, it is the corporations. They need the labor. So you would think that logic dictates that they would try to make it more attractive for people to want to work there. I mean, again, you need the help. All right, we'll offer something. Maybe raise the wages. That would be nice. I think you should get a fair value for your labor. And by the way, before somebody asks, well, what do you think is fair? Well, I think fair means that at the very least, you should be able to afford to live, rent, food, bills, the stuff that you need to survive. That's at least in a lot of places, at least $15 an hour. And that really equates to, if you work full time, $30,000 a year. Now, trust me, you're not living high off the hog on that one. You're not eating lobsters for dinner. You're not driving Beamers. You're not flossing the newest iPhones with all the bells and whistles. Not for $30,000 a year. But at $30,000 a year, you're also not starving. You can pretty much make the rent, and you can occasionally buy yourself something nice because, of course, capitalism. That's what people are asking for. And most importantly, you don't have to go on government benefits. That's it. That's all people are asking for. Just a baseline. Just a baseline. And of course, in some of the bigger cities, that number moves up to 20, 22, 25, things like that. And so now one more thing against Ted Cruz and his point. Mercurian Silver added, the loss of benefits could lead to job losses that potentially could offset any of the job gains made as the economy recovers. So basically, cutting off unemployment benefits hurts the economy in the short term. You're going to shoot the recovery in the foot. Great. But here's the thing. You're not going to be surprised to find out that's exactly what Ted Cruz wants. He wants the donors, for one, to not pay more in taxes, obviously, and also wants to make sure that his donors don't have to pay more in wages. And also, there's a political motive behind this. If the economy does bad under Joe Biden, a Democratic president, well, obviously that's good for Republicans. Yeah, of course. A good illustration here. This comes from somebody who is a supposed leftist, right? So this is Comrade Stalino. Says, under Trump, I got $25,000 plus in unemployment, $1,800 in stimulus money, and my landlord couldn't evict me. Under Biden, unemployment was ended and the moratorium was ended. I'm broke and will soon be homeless. Guess who I'm voting for? The assumption, of course, is to vote for Republicans or Donald Trump if he runs in 2024. So now, it's really easy, and I saw this when I looked at that thread. And it's really easy to write this guy off as a moron, a chud, a ridiculous and non-serious person. But here's the thing, right? I'm going to say that there are some major wrong conclusions that were being drawn by this person, and I would just say that they're politically ignorant, right? And that's not a terrible thing. You know why? Because you can cure ignorance with information. You can cure ignorance with facts. And this person is understandably very, very angry, very frustrated, and because the political system is not working out for him, just like it's not working out for a lot of people, millions of people, for example. But let me go into some details. Let me go into some facts here. For one, it was actually Republicans that fought against extending the eviction moratorium. You had Cory Bush and AOC that pressured Biden, and progressives that pressured Biden into doing an extension. That extension was limited and struck down by the Supreme Court. That Supreme Court, 6-3, conservatives. Well, that majority was brought to you by Donald Trump and Republicans. So now you might be thinking, well, wait a minute. Why didn't the Democrats try to filibuster these nominees? Well, they did. They actually, back in 2017, filibustered the nomination of Neil Gorsuch. Neil Gorsuch, of course, is one of the most corporate-friendly conservative justices on the bench. Now, in response to that, the Republican Senate said, okay, well, we're done with that. Here's what we're going to do. They had the majority at the time, and they voted 52-48 to blow up the filibuster for Supreme Court judicial nominees. So now they say, oh, it's because Harry Reid, back when they had control of the Senate, they did the nuclear option on normal judicial appointments. So now that was during the Obama administration, and of course you had Republicans that were blocking all the small-time Obama judicial nominees, but that did not extend to the Supreme Court. When Republicans got into power, they said, we're just going to nuke the Supreme Court. We're going to nuke the filibuster for the Supreme Court, and then we're going to appoint anybody we want. And that's what happened. And so, at the end of the day, they actually were able to appoint 3 people to the Supreme Court. And those justices, of course, rejected Biden's eviction moratorium. Now, I'm not saying like Democrats are completely blameless in this, right? There's an argument to be made that Ruth Bader Ginsburg maybe should have stepped down and allowed Obama to appoint a replacement. In hindsight, yes, absolutely. Especially, knowing what we know now, that she died, had cancer, and that really the most frustrating thing about that is that she was waiting to make a symbolic gesture being replaced by Hillary Clinton. Obviously, that did not go in that direction. And the rest of the country kind of has to suffer for it as a result. Still, the Supreme Court, incredibly important, very, very important. And we're seeing a lot of decisions now, like, for example, the Texas ruling that the Supreme Court neglected to hear, which basically bans abortion in a very underhanded way. And, of course, the rejection of the eviction moratorium and any other progressive priority that the Biden administration tries to do will likely be challenged somehow and not do well with the Supreme Court. So, now, that said, Republicans also refused to pass more stimulus checks once Biden got into office. They all voted against raising the wage, again, including the corporate Democrats as well, and also voted against extending unemployment benefits. They said no more unemployment benefits either. We're done with this. We're done with this. It's the last time. So now, don't get me wrong. This isn't a full-throated defense of the Democrats. They've got a lot of problems. Okay, for one, they're elite. They're out of touch. They're not willing to go far enough. They're not willing to fight hard enough. And also, many of them serve corporate donors, the same kind of corporate donors that fund Republicans. And the interests of those donors tend to get addressed way before yours, if yours get addressed at all. And that's fair criticism. That said, Democrats do occasionally try to address your, those issues, those interests. And I think they generally try to do positive things, but they either don't know how to play politics, don't know how to message, or they just lose because they're feckless. And so there are notable exceptions, of course. But the point is, Republicans are not on your side. Why would you vote for Republicans or allow Republicans to go into power? Look, if Democrats are evil, then Republicans would be the lesser. I'm sorry, not Republicans. Democrats would be the lesser of two evils between them and Republicans. So that makes Republicans the greater of the two evils by a fairly large magnitude. And again, Ted Cruz is an example of this, where he is telling desperate people, get a job, bum, while preventing them from getting a good wage, also that he can serve his own political career. When Democratic administrations fail, Republicans get elected. So why wouldn't you as a Republican try to do everything in your power to sabotage the other side in order to get reelected? And that's the game being played here. Okay? Democrats bend over backwards, by the way, during Republican administrations and during Democratic administrations, Democrats, and we criticize them plenty for this, bend over backwards to reach out to Republicans. Does that ever happen during, Democratic administrations? Like, I'm sorry, with Republican administrations, do they ever reach out to Democrats? No, never, ever. They don't want to get things done unless, by the way, they can get credit for it. And so that's the issue. All right. Now, this guy, like so many others that I've seen, have fallen into that trap of thinking, well, Democrats are in power and nothing's changed, or it's worse, then I guess I'll vote for the Republicans. No. The Republicans are just going to cut taxes for the rich and make your life worse for workers. Look, it's not even a good system. It's a terrible system. What we're trapped here between is a shit nihilist party and a feckless, out of touch, largely owned by big money, with some exceptions, but occasionally still tries to do something for the people and often fails miserably. Understand that our situation is pretty bad, and we do need a big change. We do need a fundamental reshaping of the American political system. I would like to see more of a parliamentary system, of course, with that money and the corruption that it brings removed. But until we get that, and we should continue to fight for it, obviously. Just remember, Republicans will employ sabotage in order to make your life worse so that you vote them into power. And then, when they get the power, they'll use it to crush you. And that's what's going on. They are the greater evil. And in the short term, we do need to do everything we can to keep them out of power. And of course, in the long term, then once we've taken them out of commission politically, start to take on the duopoly and to try to change our system. It is possible to do both things, to have both goals. It's possible to fight for both. One is just the means to the other. Dems got unemployment extended for months. They did, absolutely. And Republicans crushed it. They let it expire. And did that I think that happened under Trump too. Once again, proving the point that when it's Republicans and they're in power, yes, they'll do things in order to remain in power. And they'll actually, allow certain things to happen and the economy to get better. But under Democrats, they will sabotage it. No, not blue, no matter who. No, what we should do is vote in primaries. Primaries are where you can actually make a difference. You're forgetting primaries. Yes, primaries. And I will say it. After the primary, then yes, that's the time to vote for a Democrat. But until the primary, but until the general election, during a primary, that's when you fight for a progressive. What's a complete and utter lie? Don't be a turd in chat. Reality does not. No. Reality doesn't support blackpilling. Your accelerationism will doom us all, and that's the problem. I do not. Accelerationism is not the answer. How is making things worse going to help anyone? No, people will die. People will get hurt more than ever, and you're still probably going to end up with a worse situation. Holy crap. Anyway. Moving on. Again, it's not a good situation. It's a terrible situation. But you don't have a lot of options here. And this is the issue. You don't have that many options. And that's the whole point. That's why it's set up this way. So you work to dismantle the system while trying to do as little harm as possible in the meantime. Try to help as many people as possible in the meantime while dismantling the system. So it's a two-party dictatorship, not a real democracy. It's definitely not a good system. That's what I would say. For now, we're stuck into a two-party system until we can make necessary changes to turn it into a better system. But again, that is going to require a lot of work that I'm not even sure where to start on that. All right. Anyway, let's move on. A teenager captured in a viral video flipping off anti-maskers is getting a lot of praise. So now, the person who, by the way, did give their name in an interview, Fiona Downey, is a 14-year-old student at Champlain Valley Union High School in Vermont. And she was photographed by Glenn Russell, a photographer at VT Digger, flipping off a group of anti-maskers, and it's fantastic. It has turned into an iconic image. I love it. Funny enough, that's exactly what I want to do when I see an anti-masker. I just have to add, by the way, just have to note, that sign, oh, the mask is not the cure. Okay, well, nobody claimed that it was the cure, but it has been shown to help reduce the transmission and spread of COVID-19, especially in lieu of vaccination for kids under 12. And if you pair it with vaccinations, even better, even better. So again, as I mentioned, kids under 12 cannot get vaccinated, which is why a lot of school districts across the country are trying to enact mask mandates. And in some places, of course, there's a lot of pushback on that. Even in places like Florida, for example, where Governor Ron DeSantis decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually ban school districts from putting mask mandates in. So now the problem is, of course, there are a lot of kids that are now getting sick from the Delta variant. So now, look, for the most part, they're usually okay. Yes, there have been, there's a big uptick in hospitalizations, of course, involving younger children. And some have died. Some get incredibly ill or are hospitalized. Many get a mild case. They tend to bounce back. And, the major concern, other than, of course, the health of the children, is the health of the family as well, because they're also a vector and they also can spread it around. And so now their outcomes happen to be better than adults with COVID, but obviously they're not immune. And they are getting sick. They are getting hospitalized. And that's why the school district is doing what they can to try to protect them and try to protect their families. So now anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers, well, they hate the mandates, and they keep showing up to the school to protest. They're showing up every day for the past couple of weeks to just be like, you know what? Masks bad, vaccines bad. Don't you have, a job? I mean, what they would tell, I remember when right-wingers would go out and they would, they would dump job applications on people on Occupy Wall Street, for example. Get a job, when you're actually fighting for better wages. And yet, these people can seem to sit around all day and harass kids going to school, holding up signs about masks. Don't you have anything better to do? What is the issue here? No, apparently they have nothing better to do. And so this started to get on at least this girl's nerves. So on Friday morning, she texted her mother, and in all caps, saying, "I flipped off the anti-maskers, and she flipped me off back." Hey, the kids are all right. So now during an interview with the Vermont Alt Weekly 7 Days, she said, quote, "It's just so hard to see them not taking safety precautions seriously, and trying to persuade kids to do the worst of the worst. You know, it's always a good thing to see the kids being more adult than the adults, but it's also a bad thing because it means the adults are not being the adults. But of course, then you realize a lot of adults are actually pretty dumb. I mean, think about it this way, right? I mean, you know, we're all too old. You know, older people, obviously, they're wiser. You get wiser with age. Somehow, magically, being on this earth for longer somehow, you know, makes you smarter. No, it doesn't. No, there are actually plenty of older people who are really stupid. No, there's also plenty of older people who are incredibly smart and super based, and I love them. But then, again, there are also the dumb people. And I have this theory that, you know, the conservatives tend to last a little bit longer than, you know, people who are progressives. My theory is that, well, generally, if you're a conservative person, tend to be more well off. That means if you're white, of course, and Christian and whatever. And you have health care, and you have health insurance, and you make it to 65. Whereas a lot of the people that are fighting, especially, you know, black people, people of color, who are deeply, deeply progressive, they don't make it because they don't have the resources. Now, that's just what I think. And again, it's not true in every case. But yes, age does not equal wisdom. And so, again, plenty of older people that are stupid, and we call them MAGA. And look, seriously though, younger people tend to be more plugged in to the news and what's going on in the world, which is both good and bad. For one, they actually do know how to find factual information, and they also learn things, and they're, again, more plugged in and more connected. But also it's bad because first they lose the innocence of youth because they realize everything's kind of fucked in this world. So climate is breaking down, greed is rampant, the government's corrupt, and the anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers do not care if you die, as long as they get their so-called freedom. So, and yet, you know, the adults are the ones that are supposed to know better, and they're supposed to look after the kids and the safety, and they're not. What are you doing? What's wrong with you people? Got to be something wrong, right? That said, anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers, thankfully, they're not in the majority. 2 out of 3 parents actually agree with the mask mandates. In fact, a USA Today Ipsos poll determined that about 64% of parents back requiring both teachers and students to wear masks in school. Actually, it averages out to about 65% for mask mandates for both teachers and students. That's great. That's great. Now, 70% of Americans say that they do want teachers and students to return to in-person school 5 days a week. Now, so the situation here is, okay, vaccinate kids over 12 and do mask mandates while in school. Great. So that way you can send the people back to school, the kids. In fact, 81% of all parents and 74% of all adults say that parents should be able to make the decision on whether their children should resume in-person instruction. To give people the choice, of course. But do the mask mandates. And then, of course, when the vaccine is cleared for kids under 12, mandate the vaccine as well. It's not like we don't already have vaccine mandates in our schools. We do. We do. And to travel. Bring on the mandates. Bring on the mandates. And so, look, if you want to get the kids back in school, this is how you do it. I mean, do you remember when conservatives were saying, oh, how dare you keep the kids home from school? How dare you do the lockdowns? The kids need to be in school. What about their mental health? They want to go back. They're hurting. They need to be social. You're hurting their mental health. You're hurting their development. And look, hey, those are legitimate points. Great. Now we have a way to do it. Now we have a way to send them back and to send them back safely. Oh, never mind. Yeah, we don't want to do that. Yeah, we don't want to do the masks. Nope, we don't want to do the vaccines. Nope, 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 nope. Nope, no masks. Look, and here's the thing. It's not about protecting the kids for them. See, the kids do want to go back. Obviously, they want to be their friends. It doesn't matter if they're wearing masks. Most of the kids don't care, or they understand that, hey, it's for our own safety. And we're okay with this. But see, Republicans are using this as a culture war issue. And the only reason they wanted to send the kids back before is so, and this is important, they just wanted to send the parents back to work. Because childcare is one of those things, and home instruction is one of those things that kept workers from going back to work in the restaurants, in the factories, in corporate America. And their donors are like, we got to get the parents back to work. Well, I'm losing profit. Get them back to work. Get them back to work. And so that's really it. And now it's a political issue. And of course, it's bullshit. The kids are seeing right through it. And so, and I give you a quote here from Megan's mother. I'm sorry, not Megan. Fiona's mother, Megan, who said this about COVID. This has been particularly hard on adolescents. True. They're coming of age. They're old enough to see what's happening, but they don't have a lot of control. Very, very true. She added, I think in that moment, my daughter did have control over what she could do with her hand, and she chose to use it. Absolutely. She also added, she's such a kind, compassionate person. I want this to be a time for her to thrive. Same. One of her teachers also said that she was proud for taking on the anti-maskers, so that's wonderful. As for the little girl herself, the teen, she then talked about the picture, saying this, quote, I feel like it's such a great metaphor. I don't know how to describe it, really, but I just thought it was beautiful. And of course, it's the way that the picture was focused on her middle finger and having that blurry sign in the foreground. You're right, it is a beautiful picture. I love it. Win. Oh, okay. We got to move on. Running low on time, so let's bang out these stories. Now that many Americans are back to traveling, terrible customers have been coming out of the woodwork to do, of course, dumb, racist things to flight crews and other passengers. Case in point, an airline passenger was arrested on Monday following a drunken racist meltdown aboard an American Airlines flight. The incident, which occurred during a flight from LA to Salt Lake City, shows a man growling as he puts on a mask. Take a look.
Sorry, folks, but that's what they think of America. They think that it is a disgrace. I think of America as not a disgrace. Really? Yeah. Really? Really?
Yeah, really. Really. Wow. Okay. So that's a great video. So obviously very belligerent. But where did the racism come in? Well, according to fellow passenger Dennis Bush, who took this video, it began when the man had yelled at a woman of Asian ethnicity, telling her to sit down while she was standing up to deal with the back issue. SLC's Fox affiliate reported. He then told the flight attendants the woman and the person she was with didn't belong here. You also heard him rambling about how they think America is a disgrace and that he does not think America is a disgrace. You know what's a disgrace? You. This guy, by the way, nicknamed Kevin, the male Karen. So No, being racist and belligerent, that is disgraceful, and you are disgracing America. That woman of Asian descent was not disgracing America. You were disgracing America. Oh, but come on, Jeff. He's got problems. He's drunk. He's drunk. So now, drinking tends to bring out the true essence of a person. So you remove those filters, you remove those inhibitions, and that's kind of who you are. Now, I know that when I used to drink, and I don't because of medication reasons, but I just get excited. I get a little chatty, get a little more social. I'd crack some jokes, have fun, and then I go to bed. And I'd say some dumb things, but not like racist things. Because here's the thing, alcohol doesn't make you racist. Ambien does not make you racist. What makes you racist is being a racist. And that's what he is. And all alcohol does is just make you more honest about your racism. All right. Short and sweet. Moving on. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not happy with corporations in this country. Oh, well, yeah, hey, join the club, right? I am also not happy with corporations. Well, now, she is mad at them for a different reason, other than, of course, stealing wages, not paying people enough money to live, and cracking down on unions. No. She's mad because some of them say publicly that they support Black Lives Matter. So now she refers to Black Lives Matter as terrorists. Interesting. Now, of course, she's also mad at corporations that do vaccine mandates. So now you would think as a principled conservative that she would be fighting against these, what she refers to as corporate communists. Now, what is a corporate communist? What does that even make sense? Like that, what does she even mean by that? Well, back in early August, she explained it in this video.
So I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism. Corporate communism destroys small businesses in America. And I have a very good example from my district. They destroy the small businesses and the corporations gain all the control and they can't be defeated. And they do the bidding of the government like they're doing. Biden's saying, oh, the government's not going to mandate vaccines. But the big corporations are doing it. Corporate communism. They're putting the policy in place through their businesses on their employees and on their customers, like we've seen with the airlines.
Oh, see, look, big corporations, bad at corporate communism. They're communists because it's corporate. Wait, what? No, it's actually the opposite. Here's the thing. Government does the bidding of corporations, not the corporations do the bidding of the government. That's literally reversed. The opposite of true. No, it's capitalism. You just explained how capitalism works in this country. But here's the thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene knows that that's how it works, and she is exploiting it, of course, to her benefit. In fact, Business Insider has reported that some of Marjorie Taylor Greene's recent investments include up to $15,000 worth of stock in two corporations, Walt Disney and Visa. And of course, she has other investments as well. Walmart, for example. Now, let me give you some detail about Walt Disney. Walt Disney had actually reached a deal, and this involves vaccines, for example. They had reached a deal at the end of August with the Service Trades Council Union to require all of their unionized employees working at Walt Disney World in Florida to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by October 22nd. The move comes nearly a month after Disney mandated that all of its salaried and non-union hourly employees in the U.S. needed to be fully vaccinated against the coronavirus by the end of September. Oh, God, no, they have vaccine mandates. Corporate communism. It's corporate communism. All right, what about Visa? The other company that she has investments in. On July 30th, Chief Executive Officer Al Kelly of Visa Inc. said that Visa is considering requiring employees to get COVID-19 vaccines ahead of asking them to return to offices in the fall. He said, from the beginning of this pandemic, the safety of our employees has been our top objective. Well, that's on vaccines. What about Black Lives Matter? the people that Marjorie Taylor Greene says are terrorists, here's what Disney said. We stand up for humanity. We stand for solidarity. We stand for justice. Speaking up because Black Lives Matter. You dirty corporate communist. Now look, to be fair, and to be honest, because that's what we do here. A lot of companies, they say one thing and do a completely different thing. In fact, there was a report back in Salon that back in April that noted that a lot of big corporate donors claim support of Black Lives Matter and of voting rights, but give a ton of money to Republicans who crack down on voting rights and against Black Lives Matter. 4 out of the 5 top corporate donors in Florida, including Disney, contributed more than $230,000 to state legislators behind bills that would restrict mail-in voting and make it a crime to give water or food to voters waiting in long lines. The majority, of course, tend to be in black areas. Why? Because, well, they have set it up to where there are gigantic lines in these areas by removing polling places, and that is a form of voter suppression. And then saying, well, okay, you can't give food and water to people who are standing in these gigantic lines wanting to vote. And sometimes these lines are 3 to 6 hours long. Now, as a white person living in a small town, rural America, well, I don't have to wait in those lines. But in places that are in big cities, especially the inner city, where they remove polling places, like I said, and there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of heavy Democratic turnout, well, now, look at that. We just having to remove a bunch of polling places, and now there's a gigantic line. Interesting. Interesting. So now, one of the recipients of this campaign donations was Florida State Senator Dennis Baxley, who was the lead sponsor of that bill to criminalize giving food and water to people standing in line. That's Senate Bill 90. Baxley was accused by advocacy groups in 2019 of proudly parroting white supremacist rhetoric by echoing white replacement theory and claiming that Europeans are being replaced by immigrants. So that's who that guy is. And Disney's like, have money, make it rain, make it rain. We believe in Black Lives Matter, everybody. What are you talking about? Baxley was also the only member of the Senate Education Committee to vote against renaming the Florida State University building, named for a segregationist, in 2019. So, of course, you want to point out the hypocrisy that some of these big companies have when it comes to Black Lives Matter. 100% fair. I am totally with you on that. Definitely. But at the same time, that's not corporate communism. It's literally capitalism. I mean, of course, these companies are going to say, oh, no, we support this because they want good PR and they want customers because they can make money. And then, of course, in order to get customers, they need to do some pandering. And at the same time, though, they will then donate to Republicans. Why? Because Republicans will cut their taxes and deregulate their business. And that's how this works. That's how the game is played. And understand that's what the Republican Party works for. That's what Republicans work for. And a lot of Democrats as well. They work for the donors, the donor class. Now for Greene, Business Insider also noted that Greene has a history of purchasing stocks that conflict with her public statements. Oh, would you look at that? It turns out that she's a liar. Huh, interesting. So does this mean she's full of crap? Just like every other Republican and only in it for the money? Why, that's a good question. So now I might actually have believed before that she was a true Republican. That she actually believed a lot of the stuff that she's saying, and maybe she does. But it also shows you that she's willing to compromise on what she says her own principles are in, investing this money in these corporate communists. Or it could just be that she doesn't believe a damn thing that she says, except for making money for herself. Who saw that one coming? Well, I guess we all should have. All right. All right, we ran a little bit over today. Thank you for Nos. I don't agree with the cranberry muffin things, but you are entitled to enjoy whatever snack you enjoy. And thank you for the $5 super chat. Let's see. Over on Twitch, is there anything else going on? Thank you, of course, for the new followers. Toolman Tim 51. Thank you for resubbing with Prime for 2 months. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Again, if you want to support the show, there's different ways that you can do it. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/JeffWaldorf. You can also go subscribe on Twitch, use your Prime. It doesn't cost you anything. You can super chat, of course. All of those different ways are different ways to help the show. Finally, one more programming note before I leave. Tonight I'm going to be on FYI Nation talking with Thomas Reynolds and Tara Devlin of the Terra Buster. That's going to be a fun conversation. There's going to be plenty of laughs. We're going to dunk on Republicans and corporate Democrats, very lightly. So that's fun. That's at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That's on FYNation.com. So check that out. It's going to be a fun segment where I'm going to be on. All right, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you to the mods, as always. I'm going to raid in here we'll raid here into Deep Dive with Jordan Ewell. Always does a great show over at TYT's channel. Everybody, thank you. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, Nation. See y'all tomorrow.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Please clap.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.